Then, all right. So anyway, what I was saying is we're really working hard to build communities, right? And to create discussions where you are building really good rapport and relationships with others, and where you'll plant seeds of hopeful curiosity in people when they ask about a vegan or plant-based style lifestyle. So we also invite you to join our Facebook community so you can connect with others and find support and encouragement with like-minded members. And today I'm excited to welcome some change makers in the vegan field. And I should introduce myself first. I'm Mariquita Solis, and I'm so excited that I'm forgetting about me. But these two change makers have been working so hard for years in the vegan community. Angel Flynn and Light of Gentle World. They're going to share with us today their story of how community really uplifts and is the key for successful living in the vegan lifestyle. We need each other. So welcome, Angel and Light.
I'm not sure if you can hear us, Mariquita, but there's some wild echo going on. Oh, it just stopped. Were you not able to hear that?
I hear it. Is there another tab open?
I had our mic muted.
I don't know if the tab is running on another page, maybe. I'm going to check mine.
Okay.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay, does this sound any better?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay, does this sound any better? Yeah, I still have it a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, let's try it again.
No, mine is still happening.
All right, I'm closing every tab I have here.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, let's try it again.
Mine is still happening.
All right, I'm closing every tab I have.
Okay. I don't hear anything now.
Okay, I think I closed all of my tabs too. So, are we good?
I think we're good. All right. Well, welcome, Angel and Light. Take two.
Wow,
Thanks,
that was
everybody,
great.
for watching.
Okay. You want to run that intro again, or just skip?
Well, that's good. Yeah. I mean, this is live, and you never know. And I mean, it's always fun. What a good laugh we got, and now we're all warmed up. So let's go.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much for having us. It's a treat to be interviewed by you again, and we're excited to be on We Did It Health for the first time.
Well, We Did It Health is excited to have you all. And you all have been in this, I mean, your community has been around for a long time. Can you tell how many years and tell us about your journey, both of your journeys and how you came together to create this community?
Well, Gentle World as an intentional community has existed for over 50 years now. And as a nonprofit 501c3, it's over 40 years. But it really started back in 1970 when Light and his late wife's son became vegan at a time when nobody else knew about it. And everybody who they were talking to about it thought they had lost their minds completely and thought they were going to die for not getting enough protein or enough calcium or anything like that. So at the time, they just found that the people around them who responded positively to what they were saying wanted to band together, and that's how Gentle World was born. Do you want to talk a bit about your becoming vegan journey?
Well, it's just that I've repeated that so often, I don't want to bore anyone.
But it was a movie that at the time my fiance and I went to see, and in it was a movie, a documentary about, I don't know, the insanities of the world, of which there were many. And one of them was after a bullfight, there were these four huge guys with sledgehammers hitting the bull over the head. And he was just screaming and crying, and this huge bull. It took about 20 blows to send him down. And we came out of the theater and we said, wow, we had no idea that cruelty went on. And from that moment on, we stopped eating meat. And I'd say it was probably a year or two after that. We didn't even think about dairy. We didn't know that was what it truly is. We thought, oh, well, that was okay. It was just milking the cows. Anyway, we eventually, after a couple of years, we were living in upstate New York, and we went to visit a dairy. And when we got there, this cow was screaming and bellowing. I thought she was giving birth. It was that kind of screaming and pain. And the owner said, "Oh, don't worry. It's because we took her calf away because we don't want to. We don't want to share the milk. And the milk is their money." But she said, "Don't worry. She'll stop in about 2 or 3 weeks. The mother will stop crying." So we said, "Well, we don't want to. We don't want to overlook it. We want to stop it." And from that moment on, we stopped eating all dairy. We thought we would never have ice cream again. We were ready to do it. We didn't care. But that's how we thought. And of course, nowadays, we have everything from milkshakes to, with vegan milk and probably pizza and everything else. It's one of the more positive, which I want to get across to people who've just become vegan or vegan a short time. I know it's terrible. It's something that should have ended yesterday. But the truth is, from my perspective of 53 years, it's come a long, long way. Again, not as long as we'd like it to be. But I see now, somebody told me Finland is suggesting, or more than suggesting, actually almost outlawing meat. I don't know if that's true, but I hope it is. But I see everywhere the labels, everything is stamped vegan. That in the old days, we couldn't get a pair of shoes. We couldn't get hardly any food. We used to eat a lot of canned, like vegetarian beans, and a lot of peanuts and raisins was our staple, which is still delicious today. But we didn't care. We knew we were doing something right. Maybe for the first time in our lives, we were doing something right that was irrefutable. Usually we were doing something right that our egos told us was right, and maybe it wasn't. But in this case, we knew that, God, him or herself, could come down and say, "It's okay, you can kill animals and eat them. That's all right with me." We would know that God was an imposter, and we had no doubt about it. We had not stumbled. We had found a truth that there was no other side to. Nobody could take the opposing view that, torture and killing, that's okay. I'll speak for that. I mean, of course, that's an insanity. No thinking person would debate on the side of it's okay to hurt and kill animals. It's not like a lion. We don't have to do that, even though there are lions who don't do it. There was a lion cub once whose mother was murdered when this cub was a baby, and that the smell of blood would turn that, what became a full-grown lion, would turn that lion off. And that lion never ate anything, any meat, anything that had blood on it. So it's possibly, they have the expression when the lion lies down with the lamb. Well, I think first human beings have to lie down with the lamb and stop killing them and making them into food. Before the lion is going to lie down with the lamb, I think humans have to lie down with the lamb. And the horse and the hippopotamus and the rhinoceros and the dog and cat and every animal that lives in the world. They're some of the best, especially as we all know, dogs, some of the best creatures that ever existed on this planet. if they could talk, they would have a lot to teach humans about love and unconditional love and loyalty and all the wonderful things there are. I think they're the angels on this planet. I think dogs are the angels on this planet. And I actually believe someday they will talk. Somehow they will. I know there's a dog that some psychologist, a retired psychologist, was training, and this dog understood 300 English words. And he would put a bunch of stuffed animals, maybe 100 stuffed animals in another room, and he'd say, get the elephant, get the horse, get the cow. And this dog would get up and go in and get the horse and the elephant and the cow, which is more than a toddler would do and more than some adults could do, to tell you the truth.
I saw that dog on TV.
Amazing, right?
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yes.
Well, the animals, I mean, it's an interesting thing. We talk about vegan community, and of course, back then, it was the opposite for you. You literally had no community because you cut yourself. I mean, the veganism kind of separated you from the rest of the community that you were a part of at the time. But now, of course, the vegan community is huge. It's worldwide, it's global, and it's growing all the time. And of course, having the communion with animals that veganism gives you, because you're able to then be more open to our relationship with animals and even to our relationship with the rest of the natural world as a result. In a sense, I feel it gives even more of a sense of belonging, a deeper sense of belonging than maybe we think we're being cut off from when we become vegan. It does maybe change some of our relationships and our relationship with society, but we gain this other relationship with the vegan movement and with the hope that veganism represents. It gives us a whole other way of belonging in the world that I think is actually much more conducive to inner peace and that other thing that we need so much, which is having a life of meaning, having a purpose to our lives, which is also so important for mental health and spiritual health.
I actually believe it's a great antidepressant. So many people are depressed for good reason. Now they're talking about nuclear war. That makes a lot of sense. Only kill half the world's population. Aye. So anyway, I think it's an antidepressant because it gives somebody something to do that's, as they say, larger than themselves. I know as soon as we became vegan, this became our goal. Our little petty problems weren't the same as what was going on with the animals. And plus, it actually changes one's interior makeup. It changes ourselves. Ourselves, it changes. And I think anybody who's really depressed ought to give it a try, even if it's for a month. And all of a sudden, you take your mind off your own, whatever depresses you, your own problems, and you're doing something that's helping all these unfortunate creatures' problems, which are greater than our own since they're being tortured and killed. And I don't think many depressed people are actually being tortured and killed like that. So I think it would be something that somebody would try to use that as a cure for depression instead of things like opioids or whatever. That's making the situation worse, which the medical world has been known to do, to give you something that makes the situation worse. That's always a good idea too. It's a little bit of an insane asylum. I don't know if I want to be that, but it's hard to get away from that reality that they're actually talking about using nuclear weapons now. I mean, if that's not insane, I don't know what the definition is.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really great that you have the community that you all do. I mean, to reach out to people that are like feeling afraid at this time, right? And with vegans a lot of vegans are alone, and you've built this community, this structured place for people to with similar interests, I mean, with the same interests and the same values to come together. And that's so important. Like, I mean, if people are getting scared about what we're talking about, the future of the world and what's going on, that's why we have to have community. We can't just be alone in our houses scared. And so, you all are a blessing to this universe. Gentle World really is. And tell us about what is Gentle World. What is it like day to day there? And where is the Gentle World?
Well, the location we're in currently is our Hawaii center, and it's situated on the Big Island of Hawaii, which is also known as the Island of Hawaii. We have a second location, which is in New Zealand, at the top of the North Island of New Zealand. We just haven't been able to go there for quite a while because of COVID restrictions and some other things that were hanging us up from going. There is a crew caretaking the New Zealand property right now, and they're trying to actually bring it back to life from a few years of dormancy so that they can begin welcoming visitors again, because that was something that we were doing prior to COVID, which was a really nice way for us to open the doors of the community to people from elsewhere to come and see what it is like, what we do here and how they can be involved. We haven't been doing the visitor program in quite a while, but if people are interested in learning about that for some time in the future, we do have information about it on our website and some stories from people who have come to visit and worked in the gardens and things like that. We definitely try to, in either location, grow as much food as we can. We really, really like to eat our own veganic produce, for one thing, because even organic produce is problematic from a vegan perspective. They use lots of slaughterhouse byproducts and things like that. So Gentle World has always, for decades now, been forerunners in the veganic growing field, as it were. So we try to grow a lot of our own food. We always have rescued animals. Right now we have 2 rescued dogs here keeping us company for this interview. And at our other piece of land here in Hawaii, we also offer grazing to other animal rescues. So right now there's the number changes, but it's anywhere from 12 to 16 rescued horses who are helping to keep the grass down at our other location. It's really nice to be able to help them have a home, because they were all destined for the slaughterhouse if they hadn't been rescued by this local animal group that actually goes and takes them from these last chance auctions.
If I may pun, I'd like to say they make great neighbors. They really are. Just to look at them up there on the hill, they're just beautiful creatures. They're so regal. They're wonderful. It's wonderful to have them and to know they're eating this fine grass that they say is top notch for herbivorous animals, the grass we have there.
Well, it's a beautiful symbiosis because, we're not believers in like making animals work for us or anything like that. But it's nice that when you are giving sanctuary to these grazing animals, they can kind of pull their weight by helping with the mowing. I mean, that's a nice thing to know, that it's beautifully non-exploitative, but it helps us. So it's like this wonderful, win-win situation. We started it with cows. We wanted to help a local sanctuary that has 5 cows who were rescued from a major dairy operation that happened here. There was a big dairy rescue where a huge dairy farm had to be closed down because they were polluting the water, by the way, because here in Hawaii, water is a big issue and people like to swim in rivers and things like that. And the local people were complaining they were getting sick from the rivers because it was being polluted by this huge dairy farm. So they actually, under environmental regulations, they managed to get it closed. But when it closed, there were 2,000 cows in that farm, cows and calves, and a beautiful animal rescuer here teamed up, raised a whole lot of money, and found homes. It wasn't just even, because there aren't too many animal sanctuaries here. It's it's an island, and there's not a lot of that going on. But she actually found forever homes for these cows where they would be able to live out their lives and just graze. And one of the sanctuaries took 5 of them, and she needed extra grazing. So we brought them onto our land for a period there. It didn't work out because the rancher who grazes his cows in all the lands around us has bulls breeding with the cows year round, and our girls wanted to get to his bulls. And unfortunately, it was an example of where even to try to rescue animals sometimes can be thwarted by this animal agriculture thing that's going on all around us. But they did get it started with starting to get the grass down on our vegan land property, which, you know, prior to that, the grass had been a major issue to try to get it under control. And helping these animals by, you know, helping the rescues actually was a big part of helping us to get it manageable. So it was just a beautiful win-win. Wow, we went way off track of your original question. What was it? What is daily life like? Well, one of the things I was going to say, because we were talking about, you know, community and the importance of connection and the importance of, you know, having something meaningful to focus on in a world which is getting scarier and scarier. And I think having a group effort is in and of itself meaningful, because, you know, to live cooperatively and work cooperatively with other people, you have to be able to overcome this perceived separation that we have. You know, you have to kind of overcome your individual differences, and not that they don't exist, but just that they're not as important as the shared effort, you know, the shared goal, the shared dream. And everybody who participates in Gentle World, we all kind of feel we have this, you know, inner light that comes from participating in something that we really believe in wholeheartedly. So, you know, we hope that also allows us to reflect that out to the rest of the world, and to try to be an inspiration to other people who, you know, maybe don't have that sense of belonging. You know, we want Gentle World to be a place that people can turn to for hope and for inspiration, and maybe to see a different vision of the future than what they might be seeing through the lens of the world's media and, you know, that kind of thing.
I'd like to make this economic point about communal living. For example, I drive by in town, I see these people who are living paycheck to paycheck, but they always have a brand new vehicle in their driveway, which nowadays costs, I don't know, a pickup truck must be $35,000, $40,000. Well, when we all got together, we happened to have one or two men who were mechanics. So we didn't need to buy $50,000 vehicles. We could buy a 10 or 15-year-old vehicle. And instead of having to run in and pay somebody a lot of money to fix it if something went wrong, part of your commune is a person or persons who can fix a vehicle. We still do that. Our cars are in good shape, but I think the newest one is 10 years old now. But they you know, the point is, well, you can buy in bulk. We used to buy tahini in 5-gallon buckets and maple syrup in 5-gallon buckets, which is a lot cheaper than buying those little jars they have. I wish, of course, it's a matter of people learning to live together, but all these poor people who live separately, if they could only learn to live together, it would be a way to combat their poor economic status in life. It's sad. If people only learn to live, the whole world's a commune. They just don't realize it. We're all human. We're all a commune, just like every cat's a part of a cat commune, every dog, and every we're all together. That's something that has to be learned along with veganism. As if we're all part of a commune of human beings. Boy, I'm afraid to say, a long way from that. But if only vegans would get together, as we did, we couldn't sit and eat with people who were eating the leg of a lamb or the breast of a chicken. So finally we just had to separate from that. And we lived together. At the peak, it was 35 people. Of course, all vegan, everything. Our dogs were vegan, our people were vegan.
And of course, you know, in the beginning, when they say the dogs were vegan, they did that at a time when, I mean, people didn't know that humans could do it healthfully. And with the dogs, just like it was with themselves, it was a little bit of a leap of faith into, we know this is right. And, we believe that this can be done healthfully. And the dogs ate what they ate. I mean, they would just make, they would make this whole fresh food and share it with the dogs. And then, of course, over the years, I wanted to say this is one of the great things about the vegan community is people out in the world taking on their own different roles, and now we have beautiful products like the dog, and then the book I was just mentioning to you, the plant-powered dog. I mean, it's amazing to see how the vegan community, as it grows, people take on their own missions, to move it all forward, and we all get to benefit from that. So now our dogs are big fans of the dog. Just wanted to mention that.
Very big fans.
Yeah, and Linda, one of the owners, Linda and her son. I mean, Linda's a powerhouse. I mean, she's an amazing example, and then she really works hard. I mean, building community and mentoring other people through veganism. So it's beautiful. That, I mean, connecting with others is what we have to thrive. So
Absolutely.
Yes.
yeah, we stepped
and
away
there are
from
more and more. There are more and more opportunities for that now too, and even if people are feeling isolated, if they're in a community where they're not surrounded by many vegans and they feel kind of alone in it, take a look online and see what opportunities might be available to you, because like you do the coaching and you were talking about other people who are doing coaching, and there's all sorts of just online groups and forums where it's not the same connecting online, but I mean, there are a lot of places where at least people do Zoom meetings and things like that. So people can at least be connected with people who do share their values and not feel so alone. And also just to recognize that this community is growing. And even though it feels, of course, horrendously slow, that the animal industry is still doing what it's doing, and it's so slow for people to awaken, and it's bizarre because it's such a simple thing, and why is it taking this long? All of that stuff can, of course, build up into rumination that can set people into a spiral of depression if we are not careful. But the flip side of that is that it is growing, and there is so much to be hopeful for in that regard.
Yeah, just to get back, the opposing view with the feeding the dogs vegan that you hear on the internet a lot is that dogs came from wolves and therefore have to eat what wolves eat. But that's so far from the truth. We came from, if that were true, we'd be jumping from branch to branch with our arms. They've lived with us for, some people think, 100,000 years, but even if it's 50,000 years, I have seen in my own life, which is a lot shorter than, not much, but a little shorter than 50,000 years. I've seen dogs go from, well, you remember they used to say fight like cats and dogs? They would kill each other if they got together when I was a kid. The dog would bite the mailman constantly if he came to the door. And then dogs would fight with each other. Now you look on the internet, a dog is sleeping with a bird, with a turtle, because they've learned to, as far as I'm concerned, they've gotten together to oppose the common enemy. They all have whether it's a hippopotamus or a dog, the common enemy is the same. And I'm ashamed to say it's us, not us personally, but it's human beings. And I just hope that young people don't get discouraged, because I see a tremendous, tremendous change, and not enough, of course, but what a change. I look and I see vegan stamped in the supermarket, vegan products. I see on television, they don't make fun of vegans so much anymore like they used to. Now there's some member, if they have a Thanksgiving dinner, there's somebody having tofurkey, and they don't make fun of it so much. Or everybody's got a nephew or a niece or a daughter or a son who's a vegan. This is so far from true when I started, that if I could only get that across to young people. Don't look at the dark side like that movie says. Always look, in this case, on the bright side, because it's moving, and it's an idea it's an idea whose time has come, especially in the eyes of young people. We know so many kids, little kids, who have never, ever eaten meat and never will, or dairy for that matter. The Joaquin's, not only his own child, but his siblings' kids have never eaten meat or dairy. And in all likelihood, they never will. They're the hope of the world. People who have never, ever been indoctrinated by that belief that we're meant to eat the body parts of other living creatures. I mean, talk about insanity. Where did that begin? Anyway, I just want him to take a little heart in the fact that it's from my point of view, and I've been doing it for a long time. There's great changes, things that if I had known a day after I started from where it was, I would say, wow, it's miraculous. Look what's going on. There are whole countries that are switching away from meat, so I hear.
Well, I think there are initiatives within those countries, yeah. But one thing I wanted to say too is that, vegans are often criticized, and it's a shame, and I'm sure it's not always fair, but we do tend to be kind of perceived as being like the downers in the group. We're the ones who are criticizing people's food and making them feel bad, and I mean, of course, when you look at it from the perspective of the animals who are enslaved, all of that is so petty and ridiculous, and come on, it's absurd. But we are dealing with human beings who, are not necessarily attracted by that feeling of, doom and gloom that sometimes comes along with it. And certainly the whole, judgmental thing and blame and all of that, which is so easy to go there. But I think if vegans are feeling isolated and they're feeling down and they're focusing on the negative and forgetting to focus on the positive, it also alters the vibration that we put out to other people, which is going to change whether they're turned on by what we're presenting and attracted by it and want to be a part of it, or whether they're more kind of turned off by it and don't really want to be in that kind of energy field, or however you want to call it. And I think, it's not so much a matter of, that it's bad or wrong to focus on the negative. And we certainly try to, inform people clearly about what's going on. When people come here to visit, we show them documentaries and we talk to them about the reality of the situation, because we think you have to open your eyes to that in order to become vegan. You can't skip that step. Like, I don't want to see that. If you're not willing to look at it, you won't ever really be able to understand the importance of this and make a commitment that you can actually stick with. But I also think that, and I think it's one of the reasons that we've been successful with people coming here and becoming vegan, is because when they first come, they're attracted by the feeling that they get, which is one that is ultimately hopeful and, focusing on a vision of the future that's brighter. And so I think in a way it's like, it's presenting that invitation to people that they can actually feel better from this. I mean, yeah, it does put you through a number when you first learn about what's going on. It can be really, really hard, and it can put people through a lot of emotion. But at the other side of it, you become a part of something that makes you feel hopeful for the future and makes you feel like there's actually a solution to so many of the problems that we face that maybe seem to be not connected to one another. But when you look at it at that fundamental state, that it's about, how do we relate in the world? Do we prey upon everybody and everything around us? Do we see everything else as being there for our use? Or do we want to, protect and be fair and just towards everything around us? So once you come to that point, when you see it that way, you realize how big this is for, all the problems that are facing us as a society. And then it makes you feel like, well, wow, if I can change my habits from one thing to another thing, well, that kind of means there's hope really for everybody to change. I mean, at least those of us who are not psychopathic. So anyway, the point is, I think that if we're feeling depressed, if we're feeling down and low and miserable and despairing, it doesn't necessarily help the animals for us to get trapped in that way of thinking. And I think that when we are in that space, it kind of makes it almost a responsibility to find a way of dealing with that inner space so that we're being a light in the world instead of, adding to the despair, which is, easy to come by these days. Despair. It's not a sparse commodity. Did you want to say something?
I did, but I forgot.
Yeah, because I was just talking for so long.
Well, I love what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've got to shine our light so people will be attracted to us and take care of ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves first, and that's why community is so important. And I do have a comment here, maybe for an answer. Let's see if y'all can answer this. Whoops. I don't have a dog. However, is it taurine or something that the dog needs? I was wondering so I can speak to it if someone asked me in my group.
That's a good question. And taurine is actually what they say you have to supplement when you try to make a cat vegan, or feed a cat vegan. If you want to try feeding cats vegan, you absolutely have to supplement taurine. But there are other things you have to supplement as well. And if anybody is wanting to try a vegan diet on their cat, they absolutely have to do very careful research to make sure that they're doing it right. We've heard of people doing it successfully, but it's not something we try to do because anatomically they're just a lot more different. But dogs are easier. They don't need, I don't believe that they need taurine supplementation per se, but I think most of the commercial foods do have it added, like VDog, I think has taurine added. But I would say if anybody is curious about that kind of thing, absolutely look up the plant-powered dog. Diana is her name, Diana Dunetz. She has a hyphenated last name, and I can't remember her middle name, but she did a book called The Plant-Powered Dog. It's on Facebook. We actually just posted a link to it on one of our Facebook discussions. But she's just put together an incredible guide to feeding vegan dogs, and it's very comprehensive, and it talks about all the different ins and outs. She's a believer in a whole foods plant-based diet for vegan dogs, which of course makes a lot of sense, just like it does for us. But of course, you know, that's time consuming, and thankfully there are commercial dog foods available like VDog, which, as far as I understand, they're legally required to be nutritionally complete. I don't think you're allowed to kind of put a dog food out there, and especially if you put that stamp, the AFCO stamp or whatever it is that VDog has, they're required to be nutritionally complete.
You know, that they have dog food that's vegan, that in itself is a miracle. We in the first must be 10 years, we of course made food for the dogs. We used to dream about those milk bones, but in vegan form, you know, they're shaped like a bone. And now they actually have it. These are miracles to me. Who would have ever thought that there would be vegan dog food, let alone vegan human food?
Yeah, well, imagine, I mean, when they became vegan back in 1970, I mean, he said earlier that they just thought they were giving these things up. When they stopped eating ice cream, they thought they wouldn't have ice cream again. But it didn't matter as much as the veganism. You know, what they were doing, the stand they were making felt so right to them. They didn't care about giving up ice cream. And now, you know, the reward, I mean, it's kind of amazing for them to experience those rewards all these years later of, you know, all these products being on the market. But there was a time in Gentle World where they used to sit around and talk about how great it would be if products were stamped vegan. And you could just go into the store and know that what you were buying was vegan. And now, of course, that's true of so many of the products we buy. So there is evolution, there is change. And in fact, I subscribe to the Vegconomist, which is kind of a mix of vegan, and then they have also, you know, stories about cultivated products and things like that. But there's stories about the vegan companies that are on the rise now. I mean, it's just amazing, and it's all over the world. They have them in every different country, talking about new burgers and new milks and, you know, mushroom steak and clothing and just all sorts of different things that, you know, it does help to keep that feeling of inspiration alive. I get that newsletter just because every day when I read it, I feel like the vegan world is growing. And that's such a help to, you know, nurturing that feeling of, well, you know, even though sometimes it's not always easy to recognize it, this pull of evolution is pulling us in that right direction. And now it's snowballed. I mean, it's taken on a life of its own. When Light and Sun became vegan back in 1970, and even when the community formed and in its early years, there was some people called vegan in England, but they didn't know anybody like that. There was no movement, you know, certainly there was no online reality. There weren't health food stores. Son used to say to me, we didn't have tofu or soy milk, you know. So not only the products, but also the fact that the vegan world, the vegan economy as well, it's growing, and it's taken on a life of its own. And now it's just, you know, off and running, which is just astonishing, really, pretty amazing. I mean, even in my time, I'm 23 years vegan, which I guess is not, compared to you, I'm only 23 years. But even in my time, I've seen so much change, from where we didn't have even a good cheese. I mean, remember when the cheeses were all...
Yeah, pizza was the last thing that we got to make.
And these amazing artisan cultured cheeses. I mean, cheese is not just, those little squares that you used to get. Now they have cheese shops, vegan cheese shops, and, all of that. I mean, it may seem trivial because it's just businesses and food and all of that kind of thing. But the more that gets out there, the more that's available to people, and these alternatives are there for them to turn to, the more it's just going to help to feed this momentum of the progress that we're experiencing.
Amen to that. And someone is saying evolution and change. Yes, Angel. Yes, I know it's very important that we focus on that we focus on the light, and we focus on the progress that we're making, because if we don't, then we go into these depressions and the isolation, and that's not healthy for anyone. That's, like you said, that's not helping the animals. So yeah, that's why your community is so important, and the way that you really are getting the message out to people is very impactful. I mean, it's very thoughtful too, respectful.
Well,
that's my main purpose for being 53-year vegan, is to give these younger people, it doesn't have to be younger people who are more recent vegan, to give them a lot more hope because of the changes I've seen. They don't go back that far. But it's a totally different vegan world. And it's, once that momentum starts, because it's a truth, they're not going to bring, and not only that, the internet has helped a great deal on many levels, including all those cute dogs that are on there every night.
On the internet.
On
yes.
the internet.
Stories of animal, and stories of animal rescue too, which, I mean, we watch different, animal rescue stories, and it's just, I think it's so good that people get to see that now, because, they're recognizing that there is a different way to interact with these animals. There's a different way to be with them. There's a different way to see them. And the internet is definitely showing that. Yeah, I wanted to say, years ago, Gentle World is, because over the years they've done different things to, we've got a lawnmower going outside now. I don't know if you can hear that, but, different ways to make money, different ways to raise money. And at one time they were painting houses, and they had a little business that was called Brighter World. And they had this little business card with this little man and this is decades ago, little man with a paintbrush, and the card said Brighter World. And I think that's still, even though that was specific to the paint business, it's still a part of what we're trying to do now. We're trying to just show this idea of a time in the future, I guess. We're trying to paint this brighter world and show people something that they can feel more comfortable and at home in. And even if you look at this sweater, so this is something Gentle Worlders did years ago. This was one of their early fundraising things.
Flowers did this, actually.
This must be because they had a mail order catalog where they used to do, T-shirts and stationery and all sorts of things. And it's a different way of looking at, like the vegan message, which so often is, involved with the horror, the darkness of what's going on in the farms and the factories and the labs and all of that stuff. And of course, that's endless. If you want to go there, there's plenty to go into and inform people about. And like I said, we do that. I'm not talking about not doing that, but we try to show this other side, which is, like even this sweater, it's just trying to show people the gentleness and human nature. Isn't that a world we would rather be in? That's our relationship with animals, rather than locking them in cages and dripping acids into their eyes. And, so it just gives, it's like, again, it's that invitation into a different part of ourselves, a softer, gentler part of ourselves.
And that part has always been there. I mean, we stepped away from it, or we were taught to step away from it as little children. Little children wouldn't have nothing to do with this.
Exactly. And we're seeing that more and more now with children who actually are saying it out and out on video, right? I mean, you see these clips now of children telling their parents that they don't want to eat that stuff anymore. Don't make me do it. We all know that it's it's something that children wouldn't want to be a part of. And now again, the internet is showing people that's what that looks like on a child's face, that the way they feel that on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remembered.
Oh, what you wanted to say back
Yeah.
then?
Okay.
I want to make this point about this situation with welfareists. Somebody who's in favor of animal welfare is, to me, is like in 1943 giving the prisoners in Dachau a pillow or a mattress. Not that wouldn't be better for them, but it really doesn't get to the point. They want to make things better so that they use a stun gun, or these are just absurdities. Cruelty is cruelty. A little soft, and that's what welfare is. It's a little better for the animals. A little better is not good enough, because that's not like they're being smacked with an open hand and you need to do a little better. They're being tortured and killed and scared. I've seen so many pictures of when the cow realizes that the cow in front of him is screaming and being killed, and he tries to escape from the enclosure they put him in. One of the saddest pictures in the world. Not to mention what you hear about what they do to dogs with beagles and the army. And it is what they do with animals is just a gross. It's Dachau of four-legged animals. And, people take exception to comparing it to the Holocaust, but ask any animal in the world, whether it be an elephant or a rhinoceros or a dog, it's a Holocaust as far as they're concerned, and as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure as far as you're concerned, and every vegan. It's a Holocaust. We must put an end to it. There is no choice, and there is no peace in the world unless we stop sustaining ourselves on murder. I mean, the murder goes from the four-legged to the two-legged, especially if they're a little different color than white people are. It's just such a sad situation. It must be stopped. And every young people listening, anybody, young or old, listening to this, that's your greatest mission. You must put an end to this Holocaust that's going on, or we'll know no peace, whether it be in the Ukraine or anywhere else. We can't know peace and cause such horrendous grief to people with four legs and funny ears who feel. They may have funny ears, but then again, they smell a lot better than we do. I mean, olfactory wine. And they're a lot nicer in many ways. All of them, including cows, these cows where you could go over and pet them with their big eyes. It's a horror. A horror for the animals as great as the Holocaust was for all the people that Hitler killed. And he's by far not the only one. He's just the most infamous. Anyway, that was my point.
Yeah, I'm glad you remembered
welfare point. Welfare is not the answer. It's absolute abolishment. That's the answer.
Yeah. I think when we talk about community, what we're really talking about is connection. And that's what people are craving, because people are so disconnected. And of course, everything that's going on in the world that's so scary, including the war, it's all a result of that idea that we're separate from one another, that we're not interconnected at our core. We all know that we are. Even science tells us that now, let alone all of the world's major religions and everything. But anything that hurts others helps to enforce that separation. And, when we become vegan, we actually have the opportunity to to deepen our experience of connection, certainly with other animals. I mean, if people take care of dogs before becoming vegan and then become vegan and still take care of dogs, they'll find that their sense of connection with them deepens tremendously. Their appreciation for them deepens tremendously, because it's like you remove this block between you that is kind of, this speciesism that we have, this bigotry against other animals, that their lives are not as important as ours, or their suffering doesn't matter if it helps to give us something that we want, or, all of these ideas exist, serve to separate us from them. So, you know, I mean, when we see cows, when you get the chance to pet a cow, it's always sad because we know, you know, we know the reality of what their lives are going to be. But on the other hand, you get to meet that cow with this presence inside you that is, I don't do that. You know, I'm not a part of what's hurting you, and I'm working to help stop what you're going through. And that, you know, spiritually, it's just actually tremendously nourishing to help heal the other side, which is, I mean, as Will Tuttle talks about in his book, we can pretend it's not going on all we want. Denial doesn't make it go away. You know, so people might, like was saying, you know, people take offense at calling the animal holocaust a holocaust. Well, they can take offense at it. It doesn't change what's true. You know, I think the reason people take offense at it is not so much about who the victims are, but more because they don't want to see themselves as the perpetrators. It's one thing pointing at Nazis and saying they did that. But when we think about the animal holocaust, if we think of it that way, we have to realize we're the Nazis. We're the Nazis. And that's really, really hard for people to reckon with. But you have to get to the other side of it, which is not being a Nazi anymore. And then you become a part of the resistance. And, you know, that just takes away all that, you know, the guilt and shame that people are afraid of having to face. But as much as they might, you know, want to deny that it's going on, it's like Will says in his book, it's just, you're pushing it down below the surface, but it still exists. It's still there, and it's still impacting all our, you know, our collective psyche, our collective conscience. You know, it's hurting us as humans in many, many, many significant ways. So coming to the other side of that collectively and actually rejecting that bigotry is going to be just monumentally future changing for humanity. It'll be the you know, the key into the new world that will allow us to live peacefully and unafraid. And one day, that's the dream.
Yes, I mean that's coming. All of us coming together. No more separateness, right? Where we all recognize each other as, you know, as beautiful living beings, and there's not one's better than the other. I was walking around today at the nature center, volunteering and looking at the animals and thinking, why do I think that I'm better than this animal? You know, why would I think that I was better than this animal? You know, looking at the little owls and seeing their beauty, right, which is different from my beauty. That doesn't mean that I'm better than they are. And I thought, how did we get to this place?
It's different from our beauty, but somehow it's the same beauty in us that's in them. And as we allow ourselves to recognize it in them, it allows us to recognize it in ourselves as well, because that beauty is our source. That's the life force that unites us. That same beauty that we see in them when we look at a kitten or a puppy or a horse or, you know, or the owl, you know, a whale, a dolphin, that almost haunting beauty that reminds you of something that you want to go towards. That's our true nature. That's the uniting force between us all, that, you know, we're denying it in ourselves when we deny it in them. That's what people don't realize, is that as we deny it in them, we're denying ourselves from recognizing our own beauty and our own deservingness of having our life be revered or respected. So it's so symbiotic. You know, when you become vegan, it just opens up this channel that keeps feeding you, keeps nourishing you, you know, more and more and more over the years. The more you do it, the more rich it becomes.
It's a panacea. They don't like to use that word, but veganism is a panacea. It's good for the environment. It's good for humans, of course, good for the animals. It's good economically and good land-wise, because they're using all the land, as we know. We grow, you know, Iowa and all those, Nebraska, you think, as a kid, I used to think all that wheat and everything they're growing, I thought, well, look how plentiful we're feeding all the people. But I don't know, 90% of that growth is they feed to animals, which is, of course, another absurdity. It's a panacea, and it's a panacea whose time has come. We'll watch it in the years following. It's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Yes. Well, I'll say the future is vegan. Let me just say that now. The future is vegan. Oh my gosh, yes. Well, I see we're coming to the end of our hour. What I'd love for you to share with us is like if someone wanted to come to General World, what would they need to do, or is that possible? And I mean, I'm sure it's possible. How what would they have to do? And also, please share where we can make donations to General World, or how can we help General World?
Oh, that's so good of you, Marikita. Thank you for saying that. And donations are always welcome because everything we do, all of our outreach and everything, it all costs money. We don't really charge for anything. Even when people were coming here and getting 2 weeks of vegan education on site, we weren't charging money for that. We really just like to make the vegan education available to everybody. But donations are very much welcome, and they are always used with integrity and, to the best of our ability to make the dollars stretch and all of that. So that is certainly on our website, gentleworld.org. You can make a donation there. You can also sign up for our newsletter there. You can find us on social media. And as far as reaching out to come and visit, the best thing that people can do is just send us an email, go to the contact us page, let us know that you're interested, and we can begin the conversation.
And if people want to know anything about feeding dogs, we've probably over the 50 years have had, because of course they don't live long enough. It has nothing to do with the food.
Yeah, that's not from being vegan. That's just the dogs don't live long enough.
Or some little kid of about 7 once said, they die so young so that we could love more of them, which I thought was about the best reason for that I ever heard, even though it was from a 7-year-old. Yeah, if anybody wants to know anything about feeding their animals vegan, I mean, we're a bit of experts, I would say, in that field because we've had so many.
Yeah, and we're an educational organization. So if people have other questions about veganism and about vegan community, then feel free to reach out. Absolutely. Use the contact us page on our site. Yes. And we are a resource.
Yeah, we're also experts in that field.
Yeah, that's right.
Vegan community. Anybody wants to start a vegan community and wants to get in touch, we would welcome that.
That would be great. Yeah. And what if someone wanted to come and live at Gentle World? Is there a place for that or no right now?
Well, we're a little bit kind of in transition right now in that regard. We're hoping that our new land will open up those opportunities more. That's just been a bit of a process to make that whole thing happen. But
get the money to pay for it. That's the rub.
Yeah, that is the rub. We're close. We're getting there. We're on the right track. But again, it would just be the same thing. Reach out. Let us know what your interest is. We're open to, meeting people whose vision aligns with ours. And if it can be done, we'll make it happen. So the first thing is just to touch base and let us, if someone's interested, let us know what your interest is, and we'll open up a dialogue.
We need all the help we can get. The truth is, the whole movement needs all the help it can get. As long as it's helpful, it's good.
Yes. So everybody, please go ahead.
I'm just seeing the comment. Thank you, Facebook user. Yeah, we were talking before we started the broadcast just about, making ourselves available as a resource for people who want to reach out, who maybe are experiencing some of that feeling of isolation that we were talking about, or despairing, or, losing sight of the brighter dream, the brighter vision. And so we do want to invite people to, reach out for a Zoom conversation. We can just talk and help someone to feel that they're not so alone. So that's something people can certainly also reach out and request if they're interested in that.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you. Yes, thank you for building this amazing community and all the hopefulness you gave us. I mean, I see these wonderful comments about the positive movement. I like that idea of bringing a positive viewpoint. Yes. And this is so powerful, everything that you've shared. I mean, from moving from here to there. So tonight, we don't have to be sad. Tomorrow, we don't have to be sad. Just play this video over and over and share it with your friends. And remember that we have moved from here to here, and we keep moving forward and being a part of this beautiful community. So I'm so appreciative of you all coming on here and sharing your wisdom and your joy and light. So thank you, Angel and Light, for just being you and everything you brought to this universe.
Thank
Thank you.
you. We're so grateful for the opportunity and the platform and all of your listeners and everything that you're bringing to this movement as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. So, I mean, you all are, we are a community here, and thank you for spending your time with us. So I'm going to say namaste vegan, everybody, and have a beautiful night. And thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.